Okay guys, this video is the first step of our Task 1A CAD tutorials. So we're going to go through and walk through each of these parts, developing them in OnShape. So the first thing that we're going to do is explore OnShape a little bit by creating our first document. So you should already have a space in the assessments. If not, we're going to go in and you can see I've created a folder structure and I've got my task 1A ready to go. So I'm going to go in and create a new document and I'm going to call this, what do we have there? Our worksheet 1 is going to be fine. Worksheet 1, and I'm going to create that. So as that goes through and develops, let's have a little bit of a look at what we're creating. So it's like a solid piece of metal. We can see that the material we're going to change over to stainless steel, and we should end up with a mass of that at the end. So if we have a look, we've got some dimensions through here that we can have a look at and start with. So generally you try and start when you're creating these with as the most detail as we go through and how we actually go to create it. So I'm going to probably start with this end face and set that up. Then I'm going to cut or extrude this piece out, and then I'm going to come onto the side and cut that end out there. So let's go in and start that one. So we can see the two key details to start off with. We've got 120 and 37 is our diameters for the first one. So if we come over here and have a look, we can see we've got our front, right and top views there that we can go around. We can always reset back to those. If I scroll in or out, I can go back to my isometric, or if I'm selected on something and I type N, it's going to take me normal to that view. So that can be a face or anything, anything I've actually developed now. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to start my first sketch. So selecting up here, the first thing it's going to ask you to do is pick the plane that we want to go on. So if we have a look back at our drawing, this is our right side view. So I'm going to make sure that that's on my right view. I can always go and change that later, but for the moment I'm going to type N, which then brings me around to this. Now I'm going to hide those others for the moment, just so it simplifies our view. And I'm going to start by using a circle. So I can click on it up here, or I hit the shortcut. If we hover over it, you can see it's C, and I'm going to start in the middle. So I'm going to pull that out. And if we have a look at what we had as our first one, was 120 and 37. So I'm going to type in 120. Once I've clicked, and now that's set in, I'm going to still on circle. That one there I've clicked, and then go 37 for my center. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm going to actually add in that other line for the moment as well. So you can see it's 39.5 down from the center. So I'm going to draw a line across. So you notice how it goes to that little dotted. It's telling me that I've got a constraint already set up, which is really helpful. If I take that off, you can see that it's now can be moved around. If I go over there, so there's another one that's coincident. So now that can only be on that edge. Now the other thing I want to be able to add back on, which I wanted to do before, is horizontal. So if I select that, that's now fixed. The last thing I need to be able to do to lock that in. So notice that's now everything is black, so those ones have been fixed in because I started on the origin. You can see that it's got some reference points to those as well. So I'm going to go now and add my dimension, which is up here, or shortcut is D, and I want to go from there to there. And if we have a look at what that was, it was 39.5. So type that in. And now that is my end view ready to go. So I can either finish that, and I'm going to then extrude. So let's have a look at what I need to do here. So I'm going to go out that depth here to extrude that and leave the circle there. So if we have a look, I have 105 40, or let's go 210 from here. So 210, nice and round number, which is the whole piece. So I'm going to go and extrude. Now this is those two pieces. So if I have a look there, I'm going to change that to 210. And I can have a look, I can flip that. I'm going to flip that the other way. So that face that we just sketched on is still on the right side. And you can see that we've got a few options that we could explore later. So I'm making a new one here. I've added those two sketch faces in there, so I can always remove something and add it back on if I need to. I can choose the direction, I can do some offsets and a few other bits, but that is nice and easy for the moment. So I'm going to select that. There's my part one ready to go. So notice it automatically hid the sketch. Now, I want to be able to do something more with that sketch. So if we have a look, I need to now cut the top part off, which goes back 63.23. So I'm going to go back into that extrude, and I'm going to select that top face, flip that over and go remove. So now I've got it starting to cut out. And if I forgot that number again, 63.23. So we want to go 63.23 off and go tick. So now I've got what I need from that face there, which is great. I'm going to now hide that sketch. I don't need him anymore. And I want to be able to add my next detail. So then if we have a look, I need to be able to take that little slot out off the top. So we could do that from either view really, but it's probably going to be easier from the front view. So we can see we've got the dimension of that box from here. We don't really have the dimensions on how far it actually goes through from here. So I'm going to go from the top here, 18.5 down and 86.5 through. So the easiest way to do this is probably going to be using our, let's see, front sketch. So if we have a look at where that's sitting, that's right through the middle of our shape. So that's good. So I'm going to type N for normal 2, and I'm going to use a corner rectangle. Shortcut is G. So I'm going to drop that in there. Now, if I have a look at the sizes, I needed 86.5. So I should be able to then type that in there, 86.5. Hit enter and it takes me over to the other one. So if I know the dimensions that I'm doing already, putting them in immediately is very helpful. So now I've got the size of the shape, I need to get in the right spot now. So the first thing I'm going to use is some of these. Now if you are zoomed in a little bit further on this, so I'm going to go in a little bit, you'll notice that my constraints then come down here. I quite like being zoomed out a little bit so I can see all of those as we go, but if yours looks like the drop down, that's where you find those. So coincident, the shortcut we can see is I. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that line, and I want that to be in line with, so let me do that top edge. Let's try that back. It clicked off coincidence. I want that one in line. No. Because I want to be able to get him at the top. Okay, sometimes you have to be a little bit careful on what you select, but you can always, your friend is Control Z, so you can see me trying to fight a little bit. So if I select 2 points, it's going to then line those up, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to go Control Z, and he jumps back. So the coincident that I want, if I have a look, I can get that center point there, and I want that line, which then kind of lines those up this way. If I have a look at the next dimensions that I've got one dimension here, which is 30.13 from the side. So now if I go back to there, I'm going to go over to my dimensions and select him to there. And that was 30.113. Just check that, beautiful. And now I've got my box sitting through the middle in the right space. Notice that it's all black, which means it's fully constrained. That's what I want, so it doesn't change and be able to get moved around. So I can finish that one, and I'm going to extrude that one here. So I'm going to select that box. I'm going to select remove, but notice that it's just going through one side. So what I can do with direction is symmetric is probably going to be even better. So if I go symmetric, I can now go, instead of blind, I could just go up and go a really big number. It's going to wipe out everything. Or if I change from blind, I can say through all, and it will just go through the whole shape, which I'm going to do. So now I've got my shape, I think, looking pretty good for what I need. There's one more thing that I probably need to do to make sure that this is what I want it to be. So if I go in, I can see I've got stainless steel as my material. So down here we can see that we've created this part. I right click on that and it gives me the option of assigning material. And what I should be able to find then is, if I start searching stainless, and I'm hoping it's just plain stainless steel, and I'm going to select on that. And what I should be able to find is, if I then come down here to show mass properties, I should then get my 11.514 kilograms, 11 point, and I'm pretty close to what I have on there. Now, what I probably need to explore a little bit further is going, well, what, because there's obviously a number of different stainless steels that we had there, but if you had that number there, so 11.54, I think we're looking pretty good. So there's our first one there. We're going to exit out of that, share that with your teacher, and then we can move on to the next one.